All right, guys, welcome back to the Other Than College Football Podcast. Today we're going to be breaking down the Alabama versus Miami football game. It'll be played this Saturday in Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, 3:30 Eastern Time on ABC. Alabama's an 18.5-point spread. The over-under is at 62. Some interesting numbers. We'll dive into this game and we'll see how I feel about that. So starting things off, we're going to look at the Alabama offense. Bryce Young, Brian Robinson, John Mechie, they're going to take the reins of this offense. The big three's got to be replaced. These guys are going to be the ones to do it. Young, he's an immensely talented young man, elite athlete, above average arm strength. Young has impressive tangibles, though, like going through his reads, possesses great presence in the pocket. He can also improvise when things break down. Young should fit nicely into this quick strike offense. Robinson, looking at Robinson, he's shifty in the open field, runs behind his shoulder pads in the trenches. Very glad he came back for his senior. I think he's going to have a big season for the Tide. Very deep backfield, though. Miami's going to have some. It's going to be interesting to see the game plan because you have Jason McClellan and Trey Sanders as well. Very deep Alabama running back room. It's probably the best in college football. Moving to receiver, though, it's a bit of a concern for the Tide. John Mechie, he's back. He'll move to the outside number one role. Tight end Jalil Billingsley, those are the only proven commodities. But I love what they have. They have a lot of young talent. Ajayi Hall, Ja'Cory Brooks. They headline a youthful but talented core of pass catchers. Alabama will be just fine. Before week one, it's still a bit of a concern because we've yet to see what they're made of. Focusing on the Crimson Tide's offensive line, it's incredibly stout. Despite losing multiple key starters, these guys are very, very good. Alex Leatherwood's gone. That's going to allow Evan Neal to move the left tackle. He's one of the best players in college football. Chris Owens, a familiar ally in the trenches. He filled in for Landon Dickerson at the end of last year whenever he went down with an injury. He's going to be the man at center. Two of the top 5 overall recruits in 2021, J.C. Latham and Tommy Brockmeyer, will also battle for right tackle. They're also set at guard as well. So this Alabama offensive line, highly impressive. We'll have to see what we'll dive into Miami's defense later, but we'll see what they can do to stop this flourishing attack. Bill O'Brien will take over. He takes over at offensive coordinator position. Looking at the Miami offense, quarterback D'Eriq King, he's the type of dynamic player that you need to beat a team like Alabama. When you have a guy like this on your team, you can beat anyone in the country. His ability to make plays in the open field, evade pressure, he's kind of an escape artist. It's exactly what you need, as I said, to beat a defense like this. The Canes, they also have a great deal of experience at receiver, though. They added Charleston Rambo from Oklahoma, Mike Harley, Mark Pope. Those guys are all back. Speaking of Rambo, the last time he played Alabama, he caught a 49-yard touchdown in the 2019 Orange Bowl, for what it's worth. D. Wiggins, he's another one of those guys. They all caught 30-plus balls last season, so a very experienced receiving group. Running the ball, though, for Miami, it's a bit of a concern. Running back Cameron Harris, he was good last year, ran for 5.1 yards per carry, scored 10 touchdowns. He was efficient, but the Canes as a whole, they're going to need to be better running the football. Miami ran much better they ran the ball much better than they did in 2019, but they're still going to need to showcase improvements. They've only eclipsed 200 yards once on the ground, or twice, that is, on the ground. They didn't do that once versus an FBS team in 2019. So last year they did it twice in 19. Not very good stuff on the ground. Tackle Zion Johnson, though, he's one of the best at his position. It's going to be a big-time opportunity for him to shine. Miami's offensive line as a whole, though, they're going to have a big task ahead of them as we head into this ball game. This Alabama defense, I expect it to be a vintage effort this fall. They have a ridiculous collection of talent. It's going to be tough for anybody to crack, even a D'Eriq King-led offense. The Tide's rush defense, they haven't been as dominant over the past 3 years. They allowed 3.8 yards per carry in 19, 3.3 last year. Great numbers, right? But they're still nowhere as near as they were when they were allowing less than 3 on the year in the early 2010s. I think they're going to get back to that this season. Defensive tackle Fedarian Mathis, he's a gap clogger on the interior. He can also play on the outside of the street war, but I think we're going to see a strong rotation this fall. LeBron Ray, DJ Dale are some of those names that are standouts. The linebacking core is a big reason why this defense is highly impressive. Will Anderson, Christopher Allen, Christian Harris, Henry Tioto comes over from Tennessee. These guys have pass rushing ability. They have coverage skills. This linebacking core is the best in college football. These 4 guys are going to be so good this year. Be shocked if you didn't see at least one of these names take home some hardware. They're all perennial elite players. And you can say the same thing about the secondary behind him. Malachi Moore, he's probably going to stay at the slot, but he can move to cornerback too. Opposite of Josh Jobe, who's my pick to win the Jim Thorpe Award. He's incredibly tough in coverage, press warrior. He's also a really good tackler in run support. Josh Jobe's phenomenal. Back to Malachi Moore. They could even move him to safety, so there's a lot of things they could do with him. DeMarco Helms is another guy. The depth, the talent they have. This Alabama secondary is going to be really, really good. the depth that really speaks volumes of what they're doing in Tuscaloosa. It's going to be great for years to come, 2020 specifically. This defense is just insane. I think whoever plays them is going to be at a disadvantage. We'll have to see what Miami can do, and then we'll be able to form a game plan after that. But very excited to see what the defense can do this year. Miami's defense, the Hurricanes, they struggled immensely a season ago, despite having two dominant presences off the edge in Jalen Phillips and Quincy Roche. Those two are gone, though, but this unit still gets back 86% of its production from a year ago. Starts in the secondary, though, with Booba Bolden, the USC transfer, forced 4 fumbles on top of leading the Canes in tackles with 74. Tyreek Stevenson, he comes back down to Dade County after being a top 40 recruit for the Bulldogs. He should anchor the back end with a veteran Irvin Hall. Al Blade's another guy. He's really grown into one of the nation's top cover corners. A lot of people aren't exactly high on him because of his inconsistent play, but he has 3 years of work under his belt. He's fully prepared to take a spot, take the opportunity to battle for an all-conference spot. Look at the defensive tackle, Nesta Jade Silvera. He's one of the top in the country at his position. He's important anchoring the middle. He's very active as an all-run and a pass defender. He'll be joined alongside Jonathan Ford on the front. They're going to have to just establish a presence on the edge. Forward, he's going to have to go a long way in doing that. DeAndre Johnson as well. He comes over from Tennessee. Modest producer in his career with the Vols, but some very good players. The biggest concern, though, was depth. Zach McLeod, he didn't make the move to edge from his linebacker spot. It's not really good, when you see linebackers move to the defensive end. So a bit of a concern. They don't have great depth there. Jafari Harvey, though, I think he's the biggest breakout star in this defensive front off the edge. So they have some guys that can get around there and make some plays on the Alabama quarterback. That's going to be the key to the game for them. We'll dive into that later. As we mentioned earlier, you're talking high praise about the Miami secondary. They allowed 234 yards a game last season. It's a solid number, but they were shredded by a weak Oklahoma State passing attack in the bowl game. So these guys are going to have to be big underneath. Don't allow yards after catch. Make good plays on the ball. All around this secondary is a tall task ahead of them, as does the entire defense. But if they can generate some pressure up front, make it a little easier on these guys. But again, underneath, they're going to have to be great. Alabama's athletes for days. If they get the ball in their hands and there's no one there to make a stop, they're going to do damage to this defense. Looking at who has the edge at quarterback Miami, I think they have the edge right now with De'Aaron King. Bryce Young, former number 1 recruit, don't get me wrong, very talented, but King has played many years. Phenomenal athlete as well. He was the Houston Cougars' 3rd leading receiver, I think it was 2018. He was also one of their top, he was their top leading rusher and passer that year, I believe, but he did a lot for the Cougars. People forget how good he was. He scored 50 touchdowns when he had his lone starting year as a quarterback there. He was really good last year, too, at times. De'Aaron King, phenomenal player. He's a game changer. He's the reason why Miami has a chance in this game, solely because of De'Aaron King. So Miami has the edge at quarterback. Running backs, alluded to earlier, very deep at running back with Sanders, McClellan, and the starter Brian Robinson, I think, is going to have a big year. Very deep. Looking at what Alabama needs to do to win this game, just establish the run early and often. Put Miami in deep third down situations as well with your defense. It's going to allow you to unleash your elite pass rushers. It's pretty simple. I think if they can do both of those, which I do think they will, this should be a pretty easy game. Don't allow De'Aaron King to beat you with your legs. If it's 3rd and 15, I'm not really worried about him picking up 15 of his legs. So if his pass rushers chasing him, I also think they're going to be able to establish the run early and often. I don't think they're going to dismantle them like North Carolina did for almost 600 last year, because I think they're going to be better at tackling. I think they're going to be a little bit more stout. But Alabama, they're going to have plenty of, they're going to average 4 to 6 yards per game on the ground all game long with ease, and that's just the bare minimum. I expect them 4 to 6, but it could certainly be a lot more. Moving to what the Canes need to do to win, though, consistent pressure up the middle. Jade Silvera, Jonathan Ford, DeAndre Johnson, those guys, they're going to have to generate a lot of pressure to force Bryce Young to make tough decisions. And, both sides, they're going to have to be great on 3rd downs. Offense, they're going to have to convert. Defense, as I just noted, they're going to have to force Bryce Young to make tough decisions. Keep this, if they can keep this team, so offense off the field, they'll have a good shot, So 3rd down is going to be very crucial for them. They cannot lose in that area of the game and expect to win. The overall prediction, Alabama 45-20. I think Miami will score some points. I do think this is a great defense. I don't think they're going to have any week 1 jitters, but I do think it'll probably come up with a touchdown in garbage time. Maybe the first drive of the game, they'll open things up with a banger. I do think they're going to make a few big plays. I don't think they're going to get stonewalled. If they do, that'd be highly impressive. I do think Miami can get 20 points. I think that's a good margin for them. And Alabama's offense, I think they're going to do work. I think they're going to force a few turnovers as well to some short fields. And overall, the running game, it's going to take the reins of this game. They're going to be able to pull away. I think they're, as I said, I think they're going to be very effective and efficient. Running back Brian Robinson, I think he'll be player of the game. I think you'll see him have 150 to 170. I just think I think Miami's kind of outmatched on the defensive front. They've not been exactly great against stopping the run. So I think Alabama, they have a clear advantage in the trenches, and that's ultimately what's going to allow them to score this many points and win the game with ease. So that wraps things up for this episode, guys. Make sure you like, comment who you think is going to win this game. Make sure you subscribe as well for other predictions, and we'll see you next time.